You're listening to We Deepen Media.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deepen with Christina. I'm your host, Christina Weber, founder and CEO of We Deepen, Feminine Weapon, and also a certified relationship coach. This podcast follows my entrepreneur journey with We Deepen and shines light on the relationship industry. It also offers vulnerable insights into my own personal love life and the lessons that I learn along the way. I promise you that I am fully authentic in this experience and I'm here to grow with you. I don't claim to know everything. I'm trying to figure out this life with you alongside of you. If you do enjoy this podcast, please do rate, subscribe, like, follow it. Give it 5 stars. It helps more people find it, helps me continue to record it. And also a new podcast released every Sunday night, Monday morning. So when you do subscribe, you'll get a notification on your phone that a new episode has released, so you'll never miss one. We Deepen, we curate all types of social and transformational experiences that we've woven together to support you in having an epic love life. That is a journey of self-discovery, so you know yourself better, so you can share that self with another human being, and also so you learn the relational skills. And we also give you experiences that get you into states of play and joy and fun, because you're more inclined to be in a healthy, happy relationship when you're feeling into your radiance and your joy and having a good time. I mean, we live one life. Let's be in the state of play together. So when you go to We Deepen, you'll see, click on that calendar and you'll see these upcoming experiences. If you're listening to this in the fall of 2023, these next experiences that I'm going to share with you are very specific, timely to right now. However, the ones that we represent and share with you these are by facilitators who are doing their life's work. So when I share about an event and maybe you're interested in going and maybe you missed that time period, know that it is going to repeat and it's going to happen again and again and again and again. So coming up here, I'm in Austin, Texas today, and about an hour outside of Austin, Texas is the Solar Punk Summit. This is October 12th through the 15th. It's in Kingsbury, Texas. It is a gathering that promotes regenerative culture, community building, and innovation solutions for a better future. A bunch of people are camping out. I'll be there. Come check it out and join us. And if you're craving more of a sisterhood feel, which is my guest today, we're going to dive deep into desire on fire. If you listen to the last podcast, I talked a lot about conflicting desires. We're going to dive into that today. And here in Austin, Texas, which I highly recommend if you're not in the area, get on a plane, travel, come be a part of this experience. There are going to be over 200 women gathering to ignite their feminine essence, to be together in that collective, like the collective radiance that oftentimes catalyzes us to feel empowered to go out and create the life that we want to have, to be the person that we want to be. So Desire and Fire is happening here, Austin, Texas, October 13th through the 15th. And we're going to dive into that today because my guests are the creators of Desire on Fire. Unleash Transformational Festival. This one is November 2nd through the 5th. It's happening in Sacramento. All these experiences I'm sharing with you now are travel worthy. Get on a plane, come out. Unleash is a 200-person camp out. People are fully expressed. It's a place where you go to remove any blockages, negativities, things that are holding you back from being the most authentic version of yourself. It's one of my favorite experiences. Yadi Iksa, who hosts that, is a best friend. Highly recommend. If you haven't been to an Unleash, you'll have to check that out. And then lastly, what I'm going to share with you today is Wonderland Conference. Wonderland is the premier conference in psychedelic medicine, longevity, and mental health. It's happening in Miami, Florida, November 9th through the 11th. I'll be there. I'll be facilitating the Dating Dojo, the Playful Portal, and a mind-blowing intimacy panel. I always remember that one of my mentors, Dr. Sarah Nazaratum, years ago had said to me, if you're currently single, think of the place that the person that you wish to be in relationship would be, and go to that spot. All these events hit that mark if you're interested in dating somebody who is growth minded, or being in relationship with someone of that caliber, or even a space to go to with your significant other to deepen your bonds. Bonds build best over time. So go to the calendar, check out wedeepen.com. We have a special rate for you on all of the experiences. Whenever you speak to these facilitators, say that you learned about the experience through We Deepen. They'll take special care of you, I promise. So today I'm here in Austin, Texas. I'm in my home, sitting on a biomat. Shout out to Higher Dose. We're on your biomat. And I'm with Ellie and Aimee, and they are the creators of Desire on Fire. I was so excited to share them with you. We had a meeting last week, and I was first taken back by, you have two female founders, co-founders, who have been in relationship for 5 years, whether you're whatever gender it may be. It's rare to see two people be able to collaborate and stick together and make a partnership work. So I definitely want to hear about how they do that and share that with you, because as I'm learning to even create partnerships through We Deepen, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to have you guys here today. Welcome.
So happy to be here. And I'm so excited to just continue what we started in our meeting last week. It was just so much, we had so much to talk about, and I'm excited to let everyone listen now.
And listen, and that's Aimee's voice. So you can, because now you're going to only hear us.
Yeah, I have a raspy voice, so you can remember it that way.
And this is Ellie.
Hi, so happy to be here. And I'm just so excited for the juice that we're going to dive into together.
So first, let's start. Why did you two create Desire on Fire together?
So back probably 7 years ago now, 7 or 8 years, Aimee and I met in New York City, and we were both entrepreneurs building. I was in network marketing. She was a coach, and we bonded. I was actually trying to recruit her onto my network marketing team, because if you know Aimee, she's a super connector that you would want on your team. Anyone would want on their team. And we started to go for coffee and do all this, hang out. And I ended up, we ended up forming this friendship, and then we moved to California at the same time. And I went on this major growth journey, personal development journey around feminine embodiment and shifting from this masculine, hyper-productive mode into my pleasure, my body, my sensuality, and ended up meeting my now husband, Rob, and shared with Aimee what I was doing. She was following the whole thing on social media, and he was living in Cape Town, and I was like going to Cape Town. She's like, what are you doing? Because our friendship originally, we used to complain about men. We were both dating in New York City, and we'd be like, where are the men that are on our level? And so she was like, what are you doing? And what happened? And I said, I'm, on this journey, and you need to come along. And so she started on her own path. We went on parallel journeys, completely transformed around our sex, our intimacy. We realized how frozen we had been, how shut off. And then a few years later, decided to host a retreat together, just for fun. Like, let's host a retreat and pour out some of what we've gotten. And it was the most fun work thing either of us had ever done. We were like, what? This is so incredible. And we just kept hosting retreats. And then finally we were really conflicted. We felt that, we both had successful businesses. So we had something to lose, by really shifting into making this our main focus. And in 2019, we decided to do that. And we basically, well, no, it was really 2019 that we were like, we're going to go all in.
And then 2020.
And it was going to be an in-person events business. And then 2020 happened, and we moved more online. And it was this incredible thing where we were able to reach thousands of women during a time when sisterhood, help with intimacy, deep connection was so needed. And our business just exploded. And we've since, helped thousands of women to create beautiful relationships and intimacy and sex and heal sisterhood wounds. And we just love it. But yeah, we decided to do it together because I don't know, it just feels divinely guided.
Yeah. It really was divinely guided. Like, I had a business coach at the time that I was working with just for my personal business. And she was encouraging me against having a business partner. She was like, you have to split all your profits, like everything, like from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense. You're doing great. You're growing on your own. Don't go into business with somebody else where you're going to have to split everything. But we just, so I didn't. So we just did it on the side. It was just a for fun thing. But it was so fun. It was so nourishing. It was so transformational for us. We got so much out of leading these events together that we were like, okay, well, fuck what the business coaches are saying. Like, we just have to follow this and follow desire. And it's been completely divinely guided the whole time. And we just keep saying yes to the call.
It's so funny that you do say that, because I've had the same experience too, where advisors will say, you're the founder, be the founder, don't bring anybody else. And I did it once. I actually brought in co-founders at one time. It was more of, I had people that were working with me that I wanted to reward them. I didn't have money at the time to gift them. So I had status, I had titles. So I gifted them co-founder titles, and that kind of disrupted the energy of the flow of the business at the time. So I'm like, ooh, maybe this is not the way to go. And I miss collaborating with people. So I have, this whiteboard behind has all these projects that I'm working on, and I'm enrolling different people because I'm like, okay, well, I can at least work on this project with this person, and this project with this person, and this project with this person. And there is this little fear inside of me, like, oh gosh, I've been down this road before, of being we're always out there creating relationships, and relationships come and go. I mean, romantic endeavors, and as well as, friendships, and I'm pretty good. Friendships are easy because there's no there's no set container around it. It's like, we enjoy hanging out with each other, so let's do that again. Yeah. But once you start, putting business in the mix, there's more to lose. And there's more opinions and thoughts to consider, and you can't just do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. What works between the two of you?
So I would say one of the key things for us is that we started slow. So we started with one retreat, right? We didn't go all in of like, okay, we're going to be work wives from day one. It was a slow burn of like, okay, one retreat. And we had always in our work, we do our best to practice what we preach, which is real honesty and vulnerability in sisterhood. And so there was a moment at I left our first retreat and realized that I had basically been withholding the whole retreat how jealous I felt of Aimee. Like, she was like doing sensual movement, and she's an unbelievable coach. I wasn't a professional coach yet at that time. She was just so in her leadership, and I had never allowed myself to be in a space where another woman was shining brighter than me. Up until that point, I had always, very strategically only done things that I knew that I would be the star. And so I left that retreat, and I was like, feeling so much shame about how much I compared myself, how I couldn't just be happy for her, how I felt not as good as her. And I had a call with a mentor of mine, and I was crying, and she's like, you have to tell her how you're feeling and what came up for you. And it was one of the most humiliating conversations I've ever had. My ego so did not want to reveal that to her. And I did. And I let her in and really let her see me, and shared what had been coming up for me. And she received it so beautifully, and then shared her stuff that had been coming up and how she felt like, oh, you're so vulnerable. And I wouldn't even have thought to reveal like this. It's like, so I got to we really got to heal in that moment our own sisterhood wounds, and it's just continued from there. And so I think because we have such an investment, not just in the business growth, but in our own personal growth that comes through doing this work together, and we share that equal commitment. It's kind of like partners in a romantic relationship where they're both really committed to doing the deeper work, that comes up inside of their container. We just continue to grow so much on this journey together that it continues to work. And I'll also just say, I'm a mother. I have a 16-month-old and I'm married, and Aimee is currently single and dating. So there's something really powerful there too, where because we're working with large groups of women around intimacy, sensuality, dating, relationships, because we're able to bring these different perspectives, it really serves our community. So it feels like a beautiful balance. And yeah, like it's just working.
I love that moment of having that phone call and you guys bonding through that experience. Aimee, what was it? I love, and I'm really appreciating that both of you are having this conversation, that I can hear both perspectives at the same exact time. What was it like to receive that phone call?
Yeah. I was so blown away. I literally, she was like, I was so jealous of you and this and that. And I had no idea that she'd been feeling that way during the retreat. And it was so perfect because we're like, what comes up for us comes up for the group, right? We feel what our clients feel. We feel the field that we're holding. And we know women compare themselves, right? They compare themselves to the woman next to them. They compare themselves to the person facilitating. We get to examine our own thoughts and beliefs and patterns that we know come up for the women. So the fact that this came up for her and then she shared it with me, I literally was like, I'm so jealous that you're able to be this revealing. Like my ego would have never allowed me to admit that to her if I had been feeling that way. And so she expanded me so much in that moment, being like, I am feeling this. I'm feeling less than. I'm comparing myself. I'm feeling jealous. And I have to tell you and I have to admit it to you. And I was like, whoa, thank you. Like my heart just expanded and I felt so much love for her and respect for her vulnerability. And this tends to be our dynamic. Like she really expands me in her vulnerability and her softness and her revealing. And I expand her in leadership and being direct and penetrative. And like, we really complement each other deeply. And our clients feel that too. Like the women in our community are like, oh, I love how you guys are yin and yang. Like you have this beautiful way of complementing each other in your energies and gifts. And I think that's another reason that we work so well together, because we're not trying to win at the other one's game. Like we each bring our geniuses and we know that and respect that about each other.
How do you think about time in your partnership? You start with one project at a time. Ellie, you're married. So when you go into a marriage, you're like, forever and ever, we're going to be together. Now this, do you have like time wrapped around it? Like we're going to do this for another year or 2 years, or like, what do you do to check in to make sure that the other person actually still wants to continue moment by moment within this venture? And you're both living in Austin, Texas. Now the world is our oyster and people are moving all over the place and living in different locations. So I imagine that's even dependent on what if, Aimee meets somebody and Grant, I know I'm talking in hypotheticals, but like Aimee meets somebody and she's like, he lives in Bali. I'm going to go move out there and I'm going to do a business with him. How do you guys navigate this?
Yeah, well, what's so funny is we really are 100% committed and we're not attached. And so this is another piece of the work that we teach, is really following what is true and what is resonant in each moment. And Aimee actually did spend all of COVID in Bali and I was in LA, and we grew the business from across the world. And now in this season, I'm a mother. And when I was heading into motherhood, we had some like, is this still going to work? And what's going to happen? And we actually talked to a psychic who said, yeah, it just looks like you two are going to be together for the long haul. And we really feel that. And that being said, we are in a death and kind of rebirth process in our business right now. And it's looking like my husband may come in and collaborate with us more. And we're feeling the call to lead more co-ed experiences. So it's not that things never change, but we feel deeply committed to what we're doing. And
Yeah, deeply committed to what we're doing. And like Ellie said, not attached. Like we're not attached to the form that it takes. And so right now we're in this like kind of letting the old fall away and examining what actually feels true and congruent and aligned for us moving forward, with Rob stepping in to be part of potentially holding more with us and our coach training and co-ed work. And if I do have a partner that wants to be involved, like we'll feel the truth of that and we'll follow the truth of that. And so we're constantly tuning in. And this is a conversation every day for us, is like what actually feels aligned, what feels resonant, what feels true in our bodies. And that is the feminine way, right? I mean, in our view, that is how we stay aligned in having a feminine business, is staying true to our bodies and what we can feel has aliveness and what feels old, stale, like kind of hyper masculine, like we're stuck in some sort of like structure or system or way that we think we have to do it. And anytime we feel that way, we have to check ourselves and like come back to what feels true and trusting the natural evolution of it, which we continue to do.
All of this is such a vulnerable experience, I think, for the both of you involved. I mean, when you talk about Ellie's husband coming in, I'm like, oh my God, they're kind of going poly, right? And there's...
We're in a non-sexual three-way relationship right now. We live in two houses on one plot of land, and Aimee's the godmother of my 16-month-old. And so we're really... in this active experience of how do we create tribe in this time of raising kids. And it's very interesting. We're right now just getting so challenged in our dynamic with the three of us, because it is challenging at times. Two women and one man, and we're working together all the time, and it's my husband and we have a child. So it requires a high level of communication, mutual commitment to things feeling good and everyone getting their needs met. Yeah.
What's the most challenging aspect of this?
You want to say?
Well, it's endless. I mean, they're not that the challenges are endless, but the growth opportunities are endless. I mean, we had a 2.5 hour sit down conversation yesterday. And this is common for us, that it's like, okay, what's up right now? What's up in our dynamic right now? And since we're all coaches, we really look at it. We look at the process playing out between the three of us. We look at the process playing out between Ellie and Rob. We look at the process playing out between me and Ellie and with me and Rob, and what we're constellating that is also preparing us to hold co-ed spaces. Like we're always in an observer perspective of what's going on within us, between us, and around us. And so, yesterday we were processing a recent trigger and dynamic that came up with the two of us that was playing out between us with Rob that we were blind to. And Rob had to really reflect it to us. Like, can you feel the dynamic when you two are this connected and working together and talking all the time and hanging out and connecting and leaning on each other? And then something comes up, I'm naturally going to be cast as an outsider. And we're like, no. Like, we love you. You're not an outsider. Like, and in our, from what we can see, it's like, no, you're not, we're not casting you out. But when we actually dug into it, really seeing that whether we like it or not, that's naturally what's happening. And we have to be really responsible for that. And so there were things we needed to address and take responsibility for, apologize for, shift, own, and recreate new commitments around that. So we're constantly being worked by this. And we operate at such a high level of addressing things and clearing things and owning things in order to keep our field clean.
Well, I'll just add one thing there, which is that we did have a bit of a honeymoon period. We moved in together last fall. Aimee came back from Bali and we had just had our baby, and we've been living together for almost a year. And the first 8 months was really easeful. It's been amazing. And having Aimee in our home has been so transformational for me and my husband, to see our patterns, our, things that come up, to have a friend there, inside of our relationship has been really powerful. And not just any friend, but Aimee Batuski, an unbelievable intimacy coach. So it's been really, really beautiful. And this has been like the last month or so that we're in a like deep dive, our shadows are coming up, our just some unhealthy dynamics. And so we're really looking at it and really holding the possibility that we're going to, if we lean in, we can get to a place where this just really works so much better for all of us. And we also know that the second that we decided that we want to start leading co-ed work, we start to get work around our relationship as men and women.
First off, I think that you three may be the first poly situation that I'm like, this could work. This is interesting. They might be able to role model this in the right way, because there's projects involved that are serving a higher purpose. And then a friend of mine, Ariana Hall, had just shared with me on Friday about Susan Campbell's work. And she has written the book, A Couple's Journey. And she speaks about how a couple goes through these 5 cycles. Romance, which is that honeymoon stage, into stage 2, power struggle. Stage 3 is stability. Stage 4 is commitment. And stage 5 is co-creation. And so even when you're working in a threesome way, those dynamics are still going to show up. So it sounds as though you're in this romantic, like everything's working, this is flowing, this is great. And then power struggle. I mean, this is just innate, because you have different life experiences that are all now coming together under one roof. And it's like, how do we, are you sure you're taking me into account? And we do have to we do have to speak what we desire out into it, because the others don't know. You think that they're going to look after you, but they don't really know what's best for you. You have to care for yourself and advocate for yourself moment by moment. So each of these voices coming together, and it sounds that's like the beautiful flow. Like these are natural experiences to be having out in the world. I'm curious about 2 topics of 2 directions to go. Is number one is, I really love, Ellie, your story of how you and your husband came together, because it seems so simple. Like it seems so simple that God sent you a messenger that was like, you guys just go. And sometimes I pray, I'm like, could somebody just tell me what to do? I'll never forget. This is actually a moment with dear friend of mine, Dave Asprey, the biohacking guy. He months ago, him and a friend were in the kitchen, and they were geeking out on all bunch of supplements and stuff. And I was like, you guys, just tell me what I'm supposed to take. And I remember Dave looked at me and he said, "See, take note of what you just said. Do that for people in dating. Just tell them what to do." And that's essentially kind of the situation that you were in. So I'd love to speak a little about that, to hear that story. And then second, I want to dive into desires, because that was the last podcast with David Guillaume, one of my Kabbalah teachers, that we spoke a little on. And with Desire on Fire coming up, that's what you 2 work with. And I can see how, it's natural that our desires are also sometimes conflicting with each other. So first, let's start with this love story of one of your teachers asking the question, do you guys want to get married?
Well, and I think these things are connected.
Yeah, totally. So I was living in New York City, as I said, struggling with dating. And I went to a orgasmic meditation class. And a friend had told me about this class. It was a really powerful practice that this company was teaching in New York City. And I had a lot of resistance. I was like, I don't know. This sounds very confronting. It was a partnered tantric practice that they were teaching. And I ended up going. And the first day there, I saw my now husband, Rob. And I just thought he was cute. That was all. And at the time, I was in a practice of dating without picturing my furniture in the guy's apartment, like on the first date, because that was my pattern. And I would get into relationships and a year in be like, I don't even really like this person. What's going on? And just be so in my head trying to get them to like me without really assessing, what do I think about this person? What do I really want? And so a coach said, why don't you just date and practice being vulnerable and being real and being yourself without there needing to be a future? And that was really freeing for me because I was dating to meet my husband. I had the checklist, I had what I wanted the guy to look like, and I'd be on a date just going through the checklist, not actually being present with the person in front of me. And I was in hunting energy, like hunting for a husband, which is, I now understand, repellent because I wasn't in my feminine energy. I wasn't being receptive and flowing and present. So that was a real light bulb. And that was what I was practicing when I met Rob. And he lived in Cape Town, South Africa. He was 14 years older than me. And he was a reformed bad boy. His stories were like, I was such a good girl. It was so beyond anything I'd ever heard. And I thought, this is perfect. There is no way this guy is my husband. I can practice with him. He's into this personal growth stuff. I'm just going to, say all the things I've never said to a guy that I've always been afraid that I was going to make him run away. And I'm just going to take the masks off and practice. And anyone listening probably knows that when you are willing to be that real and raw and vulnerable, the level of depth and connection that can be created if the other person can meet you there, which he could, is incredible. And we just very quickly formed this very deep bond, but we, at the same time, were both guarded. We were like, this isn't going anywhere. We were clear we weren't, he lived across the world. He was also just out of a relationship working on his pattern. So it was like, this isn't going anywhere. So we can just go super deep, and we're kind of safe to do that because it's not going anywhere. And this is the game we were playing when we went into an immersion with a very skilled coach who looked at the two of us, and in this deep immersion that we were participating in, and basically said to me, what's going on here with you two? And I said, well, we're kind of dating. I don't know. We're figuring it out. And she said, do you want to marry him? And she just called it out. She could just see it. She had very strong sight. And in that moment, I felt completely naked. Like she could see through me to the truth of what my body was really telling me, which was, yes, I do. Is that an option? Like, yes. And I said that. And then she just beautifully kind of guided me. She said, what do you want your marriage to be about? And, who's going to move? And, why do you want to marry him? And these beautiful, authentic answers came out of me. And what I'll say is that what made this all possible is that I was having a sexual awakening. I was connected to my pussy and my pleasure for the first time in my life, and therefore deeply connected to my truth. And I had never had that experience. I so lived from my head. It was like every answer I gave was like, there was the first generation communication, and then the second, when you've like contorted it a bit, and then the third, that's the level that I communicated at. And so this was my first real experience through my relationship with him and through this experience with this coach of like, what does the sensation in my body say? And speaking from that level. And he felt it. And he had so much conditioning. He thought he was never going to get married. He thought he was going to be a bachelor forever. He didn't even know if he wanted kids. And he says that it was the greatest surrender of his life, saying yes to marrying me. But it felt like if he didn't respond to that call, he was going to regret it for the rest of his life. And so he surrendered and he said yes. And we have both been 100% committed ever since. And it's just been, it's been so beautiful, and not without its challenges, of course. You know, it was like, we are each other's greatest teachers. We are, we challenge each other. We really, have gone through some, I mean, I was 26 when we met. Like, I was a girl and he was a man, and he's initiated me through my connection with him. I've been initiated into womanhood, and it was not pretty at times. But it really is why I'm able to do the work that I do, because of what I've experienced in my relationship with him. And so, we joke that we think that, obviously not in every case, but in some cases, like, arranged marriage kind of makes sense. You know, it's like we live in this culture where it feels like there's just endless options. You know, you can just swipe left. The internet makes it feel like there's just so many options that we can become trapped in trying to find the perfect person and thinking like, is this person right for me, and all that. And, you know, Rob says that he said yes to marrying me without ever considering a life with me, which, you know, it's like, I don't recommend it for everyone, but it is an interesting perspective of, you know, like, are we just so trying to find someone that fits our preferences versus really dating to connect, which is why I love what you're doing so much, like deepen, to connect on that deeper level. And then maybe you'll be surprised by who ends up being a beautiful fit for you, that maybe doesn't check all your boxes, but is a person that you can really grow with and create a life with.
This is one of my favorite stories that have been told on this podcast. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, Aimee, of, you know, I'm currently single. You're currently single. You're in this story. You're sitting beside Ellie, has this beautiful love story. I imagine at times it might be confronting, like, fuck, why does she get that? I mean, she started out with jealous of you, but now I could see how this could bring up of, why was this so easy for you? When's the coach going to come to me and tell me this is the guy and arrange my marriage?
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't feel like jealousy, because I have compersion for them, you know, like, I truly feel compersion for them, which, you know, for people listening, is a common term in the poly community for being happy for other people's love. And I feel that's like happy, like pleasure, joy for their love and devotion and how much they grow together. And I also am front row in all the conflict and the challenges. So I'm also like, I just see the reality of marriage and relationships. And I mean, I already knew that because we coach women constantly on it. So we know, but it's not like, I don't glamorize it, romanticize it in the same ways that I think a lot of people do. And I do want a relationship. I do deeply want my devotional partnership. And yes, I haven't really thought about it like that. Like, can somebody just coach me and just give me him like that? Like, that would be great. Yes. But I do have my own stories and feelings that come up. You know, over the years, I've been in a relationship while being a coach, an intimacy coach, and I'm not right now, and I haven't been in a while. And so I do have my sadness and my fear and my insecurity that comes up around, when will it happen? And when will I meet my guy? And, feeling my grief around not being in a relationship when I so deeply want to be and feel ready to be. And I also continuously am learning, especially living with them and having this alpha man in my life that I get to practice with, which is Rob. Practice being vulnerable, practice trusting his leadership, practice opening to his reflections, you know, practice trusting him. I'm learning so much that, like, everything we go through, I'm like, okay, I wasn't ready for a relationship. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. And then we go through another thing, and I'm like, nope, wasn't ready. And I said that through what we went through this week, and I cried yesterday, and it was just in my tenderness, just really revealing to them. And I was like, oh, every time we go through these portals, it feels like, oh my God, am I ever going to really be ready for, like, true devoted partnership, like king and queen status, like level of partnership? And, like, I'm ever really going to be ready? Because I just keep feeling like, oh, wasn't ready. Now I am. Wasn't ready. Now I am. But am I? And Rob just said, you're never going to be ready. You know, none of us are ever ready. We just, you know, it comes when it's meant to. And then we continue to learn as we go. And it was such a good reminder. And it's been a big part of my journey, staying out of my victimhood around when I am single and trusting that everything I'm going through as a single woman and as a woman dating, one of my teachers, Jillian, says, don't call yourself single, call yourself in between relationships. Because it's a spell. It's like declaring I'm single versus like, I'm just in between, in the waiting in between, and my next one is coming. And I am in between relationships. And so I just do my practice is really trusting the medicine in that and finding, feeling my grief, feeling my desire, feeling my longing, and preparing myself and getting ready for that divine king.
I always say too of I'm currently single. Like, it's not like these I am statements, like never say you're single. It's just, you're currently single. You're in this moment of time. I like the space in between. So, your program, Desire on Fire, the last podcast episode, this is 101 with David Guillaume. He brought into my awareness this, that oftentimes we can send conflicting messages to the universe of what we want. Again, he's like, do you want your career empire? It seems like you want your independence. And at the same time, you want this partner. So, and I had this experience recently where God is sending me contrasting experiences. So a recent partner who I was connecting with had said to me, we came into relation as like practice partners and friends. And then I think similar to you, Ellie, it's like when you get into that, you're like, well, this isn't going to go anywhere. So then we both dropped our mask and we got super close. And then that became confronting. And he's like, wait, I'll be the worst boyfriend ever. Not the worst boyfriend ever right now. And I'm like, you're taking up the boyfriend space and you're going to be the worst boyfriend ever. Like, okay, I gotta get myself out of this because this isn't it. So I got myself out of it. Then the universe sends me a guy he's like, I'll be the best partner in the whole wide world. And I'm like, oh, great. I don't think I'm ready for that either. Thanks God. But like, let me get clear on what I actually desire in the moment. Now it's like, oh, I think I want somebody I can work with as well as be in relationships, somebody who's in my ecosystem. How do you, as you're leading women to unpack that we have all of these desires that are driving us on a daily basis that are oftentimes conflicting with one another?
Well, one thing I'll say is that, we talk about desire as a spiritual path, following desire as a spiritual path and a spiritual practice. And it is. And equally, holding desires and not acting on desires is also a spiritual practice, right? To hold them dear, love a desire, hold it sacred and choose not to follow it is also a spiritual practice. Like, okay, I'm just going to be with that. I'm going to hold it. I'm not going to shame it. I'm not going to dismiss it. I'm going to love it, but I'm not going to act on it. And this is something that comes up a lot in our world. It's like, okay, I want all these different things. And I don't know, it's like, is my husband going to be on board for that one? Or like, is that really going to take me down the path I really want? And I find that it's a like moment by moment discovery. And a lot of times you have to follow the desire to get clear. And so you might go down the path of building the empire and then realizing I don't really want an empire. I just want a boyfriend, or or you're married and you're a housewife and you have kids and you're like, I don't want to have a job or a business. And then you realize, oh my God, I actually do feel really turned on and inspired to have a business. I want to create one on the side or whatever. And sometimes we have to go, one of our teachers say, you have to see something all the way through. So when you see that thing all the way through, then you just have the clarity. It's like, you've seen it through. You might be done with it, or, it's clear that it wasn't the ultimate, or maybe it was just a season instead of a lifetime. But I just find that following the inner voice, it's going to reveal things, right? More will always be revealed. And so you take the next step that desire is guiding you on, the next step. And then it's like, oh, more was revealed. I actually don't want that kind of partnership. Or, oh, I do want a business, but I don't want it like this. Or I want a business partnership, or, and it will continue continue to reveal the next steps and the next aligned actions and the next aligned desires. And as long as we continue staying true to that inner voice and trusting that it's always unfolding exactly as it's meant to, then, the magic will continue to unfold.
And I think it's so much more, which we all know, right? It's so much more about the woman that we become or man on the path of following desire. So like I look at Aimee on her path to stepping into the relationship that she's calling in, and she is just becoming such a next level version of herself from what she's going through on that path, right? And going to the, just the deepest recesses of her soul to like learn and get to know herself. But then I just want to put in another piece here, which is, I think that there is one of the biggest conflicting desires that I see so many women kind of grappling with, like in this moment, is this thing of work and business and home and family and relationship. And I think what is happening is there is a generation of women who were brought up to believe that our greatest fulfillment comes from being boss babes, right? It's like crushing it in business. And I've spent the last 10 to 15 years, growing on social media and hosting events and living this big life in my career. And I've loved it. And, I think that the conflict that comes up that you're speaking to on the path to calling in the relationship is the same conflict that comes up once you're in it. And once, babies and marriage and all these things come into play, because now that I'm a mom, I'm really facing like, yes, I can have it all, but do I want it all? Like, this is a lot to hold, the business and being a mother and a wife. And that's real. Like, it is not like, we're just not doing it right because it's a lot to hold. It's like, it actually is two distinct energies. And to flow between them both is, I think this is the journey of women of our generation, is like, how do we do that? And how do we do that well? And in my experience, it requires I don't know, everybody's different, but for me, it always requires leaning more into my feminine side, my romantic side, my domestic side, right? It's like that part of me I can so easily disconnect from in favor of achieving and creating and building and doing that. It's my comfort zone. It's where I know that I can win. And so I just wanted to speak to this because I think that for me, it's such a present thing that I'm examining and working through and kind of looking at with my husband, who says to me, I want to provide for you, which is what I love hearing from him, right? I want to provide for you. I want us to have this beautiful life. I want you to be relaxed. I want you to be present and be able to be a mother. And while theoretically that sounds great, I wake up on Monday morning and I'm like, let's get to work, because that's all I've ever known. So I think that it's something that's happening in the collective where there's this shift more towards the soft, surrendered feminine energy. And I think people are struggling with it, understandably, because it's like, how do I my identity as the career woman boss babe, like, struggles with holding both of these things. So I don't know if you relate to that, but that is, I've been talking to so many women that are going through this. And I think, I don't have an answer, but I'm so curious to talk to other women and see what they feel about it.
I have a lot to say that I could unpack on that. And even from a personal perspective of, as I'm out in the world and dating and desiring a partnership, and, I teeter-totter in and out. And I think sometimes when I have these experiences that it's maybe doesn't feel like the right fit, that I go into question that maybe it's something that I don't even want. But I think too is because when I actually am enrolled in the possibility of a right connection with a person, there is something in me that relaxes. And and at the same time, I have a mission. I feel very called to my work. It's in my chart. It's written in this, like, being a visionary. And I think that now as I get clear more and more, as we, continue to have our own, experiences that transform our soul, and we learn more about ourselves and what we're desiring and who's our best right partner, I can now see a little bit of somebody's ecosystem and world from a masculine perspective that I can also, I don't want to say the word fold into, but it's almost like I'm able to bring that into our experience, and it fits within who you already are, who he already is. And I could dive into that a little bit more based on my personal experiences. Maybe a good time for me to do that would be if I went to a Desire on Fire. So I know that this is, if anybody's listening right now, before, the event coming up October 13th, what is there to expect from that experience?
Yeah. So the Desire on Fire experience is what it's called. And it is a 3-day sacred sisterhood portal and a weekend that is devoted to women's awakening and sensuality, just like sensual expression and the ignition of women's desire. And it's this whole conversation that we're having right now, but over 3 days. And we dive into women's blocks to receiving masculine love, protection, provision, blocks to loving, respecting, and having reverence for the masculine, because we got a lot of conditioning, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain that gets in the way of us fully receiving men. And then it's also, we have a huge focus on our wounds with women and sisterhood wounds and how we can heal those to be in deeper connection with women, to be more supported, more resourced in order to be available for relationship and business. We do sensual movement with hundreds of women in the room. We teach incredible exercises and principles and practices that just are mind-blowing, paradigm shifting. And the light bulbs that are going off in the room are just, it's incredible. And it's like stepping into a whole different paradigm around sisterhood, relationship, sexuality, and relationship to the masculine. And it really is a portal. We call it a sacred sisterhood portal. And it's like you go in and you just like get shot out of a cannon in awareness and openness, like your heart and pussy are just like open to the possibilities of pleasure and sensual expression and connection and intimacy. And it's just one of our favorite things ever. And for anyone that is listening in real time, we would love to have you there. We have women flying in from 7 different countries and all over the US, and you do not have to be local in Austin to come. But we hope you'll join us.
Yeah, just that if you're not available that weekend, you can follow us on Instagram or find us at Desire on Fire on Instagram or desireonfire.com. And we'll be doing different virtual events and things throughout the year that we'd love for you to join if you were inspired by this conversation. And, if you're hearing this in time and you can make it to our live event, that's for sure the way to go, because there's nothing like it. And for me, being in the room with hundreds of women activating into their feminine energy has awakened something in me that I don't think would have awakened any other way. And we just so want that for all women, that aliveness, that sisterhood, that turn on in your relationship. We were talking to a mom the other day, and she was saying, that part of me feels so shut down. I just don't feel connected to my sexuality. And it's so normal. And it's our culture, I think, is so it's a masculine culture. And so it's very easy to go through life and feel disconnected from that part of you, even if you're listening to the podcast and doing some growth work and different things. And so it's a very fun and easy and accessible way to plug into something that is a very powerful energy that lives inside of you, that we just so want to back every woman in experiencing that. So the event is $444. And if you use the code WeDeepen, we're offering it for the lowest price actually that anyone can get for the event, which is, it's usually, we for some people we offer half off, but this is even less. So it's $188 with the code WeDeepen.
I'm so grateful for the work that you guys do in the world. When we met last week, I shared with you about being a pharmaceutical rep and how I was, selling Aimee and CR and these other medicines. And I, as I discovered this world of transformation and seeing what you do, it is true that these types of programs support people in having healthy, epic love lives, being able to authentically share yourself with another human being. And so I'm so grateful to be your partner in this. And I hope that you do see me as your partner in this, because I also want to honor that it's, what you're doing is totally driven by love. You shared with me about, the major investment that it requires to host an event of this stature. Like it's, you've rented out a hotel, you have like women flying in from multiple countries. And let's say like an event that is ticketed at $200 is very accessible for everybody. Anybody can be able to attend this and be a part of this experience. So thank you for that. Thank you for putting yourself out there, and serving and being of service, because it really is supportive of, I can remember back, in my New York City days and studying Sheila Kelly's S Factor and femininity, and feeling like that it really did support my relational lives. And if you're a man listening to this, podcast too, it's like share it with your female friends, because this is what, men love happy women. Like, let's be like,
men love turned on women.
Yes. And send it. Give this as a gift to your significant other. Send them and share this experience. So thank you guys for what you're doing. It's such a pleasure and honor to work with you. And I know this is just the beginning. And if you are listening and you missed the event, definitely go to check out what these girls are up to. They're going to keep growing and offering new services and programs and such. And in the description of this podcast, you'll be able to find links to their social medias to follow. Thank you all. And thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Deepen with Christina. Again, if you do enjoy this podcast, please do like, subscribe, follow, rate it. When you subscribe, you will be alerted when new episodes are released, so you'll never miss one. Okay. Bye for now. Love you.